You don't move to North Korea to fall in love. You move to North Korea because you're 27 and your life back home has the structural integrity of wet cardboard. You've got a journalism degree 300,000 other people also got that year. A student loan that sends you reminders with the cheerful persistence of a golden retriever. A string of relationships so short your friends stopped learning names and started using descriptions. The finance guy. The one who wanted Togo off-grid. The one who quoted Nietzsche at brunch and meant it. Your dad asks what the plan is. You don't have a plan. You have a copy of an expired DPRK press visa, a contact at an NGO running a humanitarian documentation project in Pyongyang, and the deeply unearned confidence of a woman who has never been anywhere that didn't have an Uber. The plan, if you can call it that, is document agricultural reform efforts in cooperative farms outside the capital, contribute 3 publishable pieces, build a portfolio that makes editors take you seriously, and go home in 1 year with a byline that makes people lean in at dinner. 1 year.
In out done.
You are not looking for anything permanent. Permanent is a word for people who have figured out what they want to be when they grow up. You can barely keep a cactus alive. You land in Pyongyang on Agri Tuesday in March. The airport is called Pyongyang Sunan International Airport, and it is the quietest international airport you have ever walked through. Not peaceful quiet, hell breath quiet. The kind of quiet that exists in places where the rules about what you say out loud are not posted anywhere, but everyone knows them anyway. Your first week is a blur of mandatory orientation sessions. A minder named Mr. Cho who answers every question with a careful pause before the answer, and the slow realization that Pyongyang is not the dystopian film set you absorbed from documentaries back home. It's a city. People walk to work. Children chase each other in Moranbong Park. Women sell vegetables from cloth laid on the ground near the Taedong River. There is scaffolding on a building being repaired. A man feeds pigeons outside the Grand People's Study House with the unhurried commitment of a man who has been doing this for 30 years and intends to do it for 30 more. It is, in a way you were not prepared for, ordinary. Ordinary in the way of a stage set built by people who live on it and have stopped seeing the walls. You are placed in a foreign resident housing block in the Munsu area. 1 room, communal kitchen, a bathroom that functions adequately but never warmly. You share the floor with 2 other foreign workers, a Finnish agricultural technician and a Chinese civil engineer who plays chess against himself every evening and wins. Your movement is supervised. Your interviews require pre-approval. Your phone is a Nokia you brought from home that connects to nothing because foreign SIM cards are restricted and the domestic Coriolink network is not accessible to you. You have never been this disconnected from the internet in your adult life, and the feeling is unexpectedly not panic. It's more like the silence after a very loud concert. Disorienting, but not without its own strange quality. You start working with the NGO team 3 weeks in. Your DPRK government liaison through the project is a man named Ri Jun Seo. He is 31. He is a graduate of Kim Il-sung University with a degree in agricultural economics. He speaks English with the careful precision of someone who studied it from textbooks and then lived in it through controlled exposure, functional, slightly formal, and occasionally startling in its accuracy. He has good posture the way that seems load-bearing. Like if he relaxed it, something structural might shift. He is not warm at first. He is professional the way load-bearing walls are professional, present, reliable, not decorative. He answers your questions thoroughly, asks clarifying questions before assuming, and corrects your pronunciation of Korean place names without apology, which is, if you're honest, the first thing that makes you pay attention to him. You meet properly for the first time at a co-op farm in Gangdong County, about 40 kilometers east of Pyongyang. You've been taken to observe the irrigation infrastructure. It's April. The fields are being turned. You ask a question through him about water distribution that your translator mistranslates, and he corrects it quietly without making the translator feel bad, and you think, involuntarily, that was considerate. He catches you writing notes in the wrong column of your field notebook because the page bled through and he hands you a new page torn from his without comment. On the drive back, he points out a hillside where, he says, there are wild azaleas in the spring so thick the whole slope goes red. He says it the way someone says a thing they have kept for themselves and have decided, just this once, to hand over. You start meeting for tea in the evenings when the workday ends. in the common room of the housing block where there is a kettle and a table and a window that faces west. You talk about the project, then about other things. He asks about America with a curiosity that has no agenda in it. Not political, not testing, genuine. He wants to know what grocery stores look like, whether people really eat at their desks, whether you can hear your neighbors through apartment walls. You ask him about Pyongyang, and he answers in a way that is careful but not evasive, not a recitation. He tells you about a teacher he had in school who made them memorize poems by reciting them into the wind in the school roof. He tells you his mother makes a cold buckwheat noodle dish called Pyongyang Naengmyeon that he believes is the best thing in the world to eat in August. He tells you this without the kind of qualifier that people use when they're performing patriotism. He means it. It's just true. You file this detail somewhere. He is careful at first in the way of someone who has learned that careful is how you survive. He does not touch you casually. He does not say personal things quickly. He takes several weeks to tell you something about himself that isn't related to work, and when he does, it's small and deliberate, like setting something breakable down gently. You learn later that the system he lives inside has made the gap between inner life and outer expression a survival skill honed over decades, not just in him but in everyone around him, passed down the way other families pass down recipes. When he starts letting you see past the outer layer, you feel the weight of what that costs him. You didn't take it lightly. You date for what, in any other place, you would not call dating because there are no dates in the way you'd recognize them. There are no restaurants you can go to alone without a minder. There are no movies, no bars, no casual walking around the city to stand up. What you have is the 40-minute walk from the housing block to the study house that he offers to accompany you on twice a week because he says the route has construction and it's easier if he shows you. The construction, you will realize later, ends after the third week. He keeps walking you anyway. You have co-op trips where sometimes the logistics mean you ride in the back of the same vehicle for 2 hours and the road is bad enough that conversation is easier than silence. You have the common room evenings where the kettle is always on and the Finnish technician goes to bed early and the chess engineer is in his room talking to no one, and there are 2 hours where it's just the two of you and the window going dark outside and a conversation that runs longer than either of you planned. You want to hear his voice go quiet the way it does when he says something he means. You don't say that. You say something dumb about buckwheat noodles. But you're already in trouble, and you don't know it yet. He meets your family over a video call you manage through the NGO's limited satellite connection on a designated communications day. 3-hour window. 13-hour time difference. Your mom cries before you finish the introduction. Your brother asks him 2 questions that are technically about his job, but are really about his intentions, and Jun Seo answers both of them with a directness that makes your brother go quiet, which almost never happens. Your dad, who is a man of very few words, says afterward. He seems like a man who means what he says. In your family, that is a standing ovation. His family is a different operation entirely. His mother is in Pyongyang. His father passed when Jun Seo was 19. His mother is a retired schoolteacher who sits across from you in her apartment in the Patongang district and evaluates you with the patience of someone who has all day and intends to use it. She asks questions about your family, your education, your cooking skills, which you inflate modestly and then, quietly, whether you understand what it would mean to stay. Not stay in the country. Stay in his life. Asen, whether you understand the weight of what that means for him, not just for you. You say yes. She looks at you for a long moment. Then she refills your tea. Jun Seo tells you later that the tea refill is significant. You choose to believe him because the alternative is re-examining every second of that visit, and you're not ready. He proposes in the only place the two of you have ever had privacy that felt real. On the hillside in Kangdong in late October, where he told you the azaleas go red in spring. They are gone now. The hill is just brown and cold. You are both wearing too many layers and the wind is unreasonable. He has no ring because acquiring one in Pyongyang as a local man for a foreign woman requires navigating logistics neither of you fully understand, and he says he wanted to ask the question before the logistics talked him out of it. He asks. You say yes before he finishes the sentence. Then you both sit there for a while in the cold because the next part of this, the actual structure of this, is something neither of you has a map for. You file this moment somewhere deep and permanent because you have a feeling you're going to need it later. You just don't know why yet. Getting married as a foreign national to a DPRK citizen is not impossible. It requires navigation through layers of institutional process that have no English translation, not literally, but procedurally. Your NGO's legal contact in Beijing handles much of the framework. There are documents, attestations, an approval process that takes 7 months. Your family cannot fly in. There is no category of tourist visa for that kind opposite. Your mother sends a recorded video message that you watch on the NGO's satellite tablet in the common room, and she cries so thoroughly that the Finnish technician who walks in halfway through silently turns around and leaves. Your brother records a separate message that is 3 minutes long and ends with him saying he doesn't understand any of this, but if you're sure, then he's sure too. That sentence costs you the rest of the afternoon. The ceremony is small. A civil registration office in Pyongyang. Jun Seo's mother. 2 colleagues from the NGO who serve as witnesses. A registrar with the formal energy of a man who has officiated many things and treats each one as if it is the first. Yuwira Hanbak's mother helped you choose, pale blue with white trim. She spent 40 minutes adjusting it and said nothing while she did it but touched your shoulder once when she was finished, and that was enough. You look at Jun Seo across the room, and he is looking at you with the expression he has when he has decided something and is not going to change his mind. You recognize it. It is the same expression he had on the Kongdong hillside. It is the same expression that you have come to understand means, I have calculated the cost of this, and I am paying it willingly. You stay. The NGO extends your contract, then extends it again. Then creates a role for you that didn't exist before because your access and relationships have made you genuinely useful in a way that justifies the paperwork. You learn Korean. Not tourist Korean, functional Korean. The kind where you stop translating in your head and start thinking sideways in it, where you catch jokes before they're explained, where you stop reaching for a word, and it's just there. Jun Seo corrects you without mercy and praises you without fuss, and this is, you understand by now, how he loves. You move into a 2-room apartment in the Ryomyeong Street district. He has lived there alone for 4 years. There is a bookshelf with more books than will fit in it, arranged with the slightly guilty disorder of someone who keeps buying books faster than he has time to read them. There is a small balcony that faces east and catches the morning light. There is a kitchen where 2 people can stand without rotating, and this feels, after years of small spaces, like an extraordinary thing. You put a plant on the windowsill. You buy a rug at the Tungil market that he says is too bright, and you say has character and it stays on the floor for years because it does. The neighborhood starts to know you. The woman at the building who manages resident registrations asks about your Korean pronunciation with the bluntness of someone who is not trying to be rude, just accurate, and eventually stops correcting you and starts just nodding, which feels like a promotion. The older man who sells roasted chestnuts from a cart outside the Pothongang Riverside Path nods at you in Octobras if you have been there always. Jun Seo's colleagues at the Agricultural Ministry call you by a nickname that means something like, the American who stayed. You don't know if it's affectionate, but it is said with the ease of something that has been decided, and in Pyongyang, when something has been decided about you, that is a kind of acceptance. You're building something. It doesn't have a name yet. It just feels like it might last. Then Sora is born. There is nothing that prepares you. People say it changes everything and you nod when they say it because that's what you do with cliches. But then you're in the delivery ward at Pyongyang Maternity Hospital on Kim Won-jaeun Street, and Jun Seo is outside because the ward does not allow fathers in the delivery room, and he knows this and you know this, and he has been standing in the corridor for 6 hours, and that detail alone makes you understand something about love that no one put in language yet. And then there is a sound. And then there is a person. A whole entire person who was not here before, and is now here forever.
Sora.
She weighs 3.1 kilograms. She has Jun Seo's eyes, which are very serious, and your mouth, which is apparently always about to say something. She looks at the ceiling with the expression of someone who has arrived somewhere and is reserving judgment. They put her in your arms and everything else in your life becomes the background. Jun Seo sees her for the first time through a window in the hall. You watch his face from the bed, through the glass. He doesn't know you can see him. His whole body changes. He puts one hand flat on the glass and holds it there. You file this away in the same place as the Kongdong hillside, the place where you keep the things you intend to survive on. You don't sleep for 2 months. Nobody sleeps. Junaseo takes the night shifts with the quiet seriousness he applies to all difficult things. You hand him the baby, you collapse, he hands you the baby, he collapses. You meet in the kitchen at 3 in the morning and stand there looking at each other with the blank solidarity of two people who have been through something and might not make it, but intend to. His mother comes from across the city 3 times a week and takes Sora without being asked, and you are so grateful you once cried into her shoulder without warning, and she held you there for a full minute without comment, and that was the moment you became something to each other that did not need a word. Sora, at 5 months, grabs Juneseo's finger and falls asleep holding it. He sits completely still for an hour. His arm goes numb. He doesn't move. Sora at 10 months says something in his direction that could be Appa if you lean into it, and he doesn't claim it out loud but makes her porridge the next morning with the careful attention of a man who has been given something he intends to deserve. Sora at 1 year walks 4 steps across the apartment floor and falls into your arms and looks up at you as if she has just invented something and wants you to write it down. You write it down. You write everything down. You develop a bedtime ritual. A Korean picture book called Selfish Bear, about a bear who learns to share his honey in the end. Juneseo does the voices. The bear has a voice that is low and pretend grumpy, and Sora screams laughing every time and then settles against him and goes still, and you watch from the doorway in a way that feels like witnessing something private and also like being included in it. She falls asleep on page 9 every time. Page 9. He keeps reading pages 10 through 22 to himself because stopping a story in the middle feels wrong, even when the audience is asleep. You don't know it yet, but this detail is going to break you later. Saturday mornings become sacred. Nobody has to be anywhere. Juneseo makes Pyongyang naengmyeon, cold buckwheat noodles, from his mother's method, which involves a preparation that begins the night before and a broth he keeps secret like it's classified. Sora sits in her chair and distributes noodle across every surface reachable by a determined 1-year-old arm. You make tea badly. You eat together. You clean together. You walk along the Taedong River, Sora in Juneseo's arms, pointing at the boats, at the birds, at nothing in particular, with the authority of someone who believes everything she sees belongs to her. He carries her on his shoulders and she grabs his hair, and he makes a face like it hurts, and she laughs, and the laugh sounds exactly like his, surprised, like happiness just showed up and she has to decide what to do with it. You are not building a life anymore. You are inside one. And it fits. It doesn't change color. It changes texture. Everything still looks the same, but the way it feels under your hands is different. The NGO's funding structure shifts. Donor priorities rotate. The agricultural documentation project concludes. Your role, the one that didn't exist before they made it for you, does not survive the restructuring. You are given 4 months' notice. You are not panicked by this. You have been here 4 years. You have contacts, skills, language. You will find something. But the conversation that happens next is not about employment. It happens on a Tuesday evening in the apartment after Sora is asleep, and it starts with Juneseo saying, "I need to tell you something I have been thinking about for a long time." And you know by the way he says it that this is not a small thing. He has been given a professional opportunity, a permanent senior post at the National Agricultural Research Institute, a step up from his current liaison role that would represent a meaningful change in his career and his family's stability. It is not negotiable in the way that opportunities in this country are rarely negotiable. You accept them or you don't, and if you don't, the next offer comes in a different shape. He would not ask you to stay for him, he says. He says this like he means it, and you believe him because you know by now how he talks when he means something and how he talks when he doesn't. But Sora, he says. Sora is already enrolled in a kindergarten nearby. She speaks Korean fully, naturally, in the way children absorb language when they are small and just become it. She knows her neighborhood. She knows the chestnut vendor. She knows the cats that live behind the building on Ryomyeong. She knows the river. He is not arguing a case. He is laying down what is real. You do not argue back. You understand what he is saying, and it is not unreasonable, and that's what makes it so hard to sit with. The NGO transition happens. You spend 3 months trying to locate alternative contracts. There is a small window involving a development organization operating out of Beijing that would require you to be based outside DPRK, with quarterly visits. You apply, you are qualified. The timeline for a decision extends. You ask about taking Sora to America for a month while you wait, a visit, show her your family, give her the context off where half of her comes from. Jun Seo considers it for several days. He says yes. He says it with his whole face, not just the word. Your family at the airport is not a small event. Your mother weeps before Sora is out of the gate. Your brother picks Sora up and carries her through arrivals like he has known her forever, and she lets him because she is, apparently, a child who makes decisions about people and acts on them immediately. Your dad kneels down to her level and shows her his pocket watch, and she reaches for it, and he lets her hold it, and nobody says anything because the room is full of a feeling that does not need language. You're home for 6 weeks. On week 4, the Beijing position confirms a start date. It would mean being outside DPRK for approximately 10 months a year, with quarterly returns. You sit with this. You take walks around your parents' neighborhood and sit with it more. It is a good position. It would resolve the employment problem. It would give you proximity to the outside world you have genuinely missed in ways you didn't name while you were in it. It would mean Sora grows up in 2 places. You are about to call Jun Seo and tell him you're going to accept it. And then your mother says something at dinner that she means is nothing, just Akeman about how good it is to have you home, how healthy Sora looks, how strange and wonderful it must be to raise her over there, and something in the way she says over there snags in you. She does not mean it as a judgment. It lands as one. Not on her. On you. Over there is where Sora's father is. Over there is where the chestnut vendor nods at her. Over there is where she falls asleep on page 9 in her father's arms while the bear gives away his honey. You sit with that for 3 more days. Then you call Jun Seo.
Not to tell him about the job.
To tell him you're coming back. He is quiet for a moment. Then he says, when? And something in how quickly he says it, how flat the word is, how much it is holding, tells you that the 3 weeks since you left has cost him more than he was going to say. You say, 2 weeks. He says, okay. Then says the Korean word that means something between I understand and I am relieved, and you can hear in his voice that both are true at the same time. You decline the Beijing position. It is the most professionally costly decision you have made since you got on a plane to Pyongyang without a return ticket. You make it without regret, which surprises you because regret has always been your first language. You find freelance documentation work through a humanitarian data firm operating in the region. It pays less. It fits. You're here. Sora is here. Jun Seo is here, and every evening he reads past page 9 even when the audience is unconscious because he also believes you don't stop a story in the middle. But the world is not finished with you yet. The situation changes shape in the 3rd year after your contract restructure. There are policy reviews affecting foreign nationals married to DPRK citizens. These are not announced. They are communicated through changed procedures and newly required registrations and meetings with officials who are polite in the way of people who are delivering information they did not write. Your residential status, which has been maintained through Jun Seo's spousal sponsorship and your continuous employment documentation, is now subject to a review that will take, you are told, some time. No timeline is given. Some time is a phrase that exists in bureaucratic vocabulary to mean, we are not going to explain the shape of this to you. You hire a lawyer. There are very few foreign national family law situations in Pyongyang, and the legal professional who handles your case is a quiet, methodical woman named Han who has represented 3 similar cases in the past decade and speaks with the measured energy of someone who delivers life-altering information for a living and has learned not to deliver it like a verdict, but like a weather report. Accurate. Present. Not personally responsible for the conditions. She explains that your residential authorization is tied to employment documentation, the NGO contract dissolution, and the gap before your freelance arrangement created an administrative inconsistency. The review is examining that gap. She says the most likely outcome is a required period of external residency while your documentation is regularized. External residency meaning outside DPRK, likely between 6 and 18 months. During which Sora, as a DPRK citizen, cannot leave with you without a separate approval process that also takes time and cannot be initiated until the first process concludes. You ask how long Sora has been considered a DPRK citizen. Han says, from birth. You ask about your American citizenship claims for her, the documentation you filed through the U.S. Embassy in Beijing when she was 4 months old. Han says those claims are recognized by the U.S. and are not recognized here in a way that affects her residential status. She has 2 citizenships on paper. In practice, she is within this jurisdiction here. She is 4 years old. She speaks Korean in her sleep. She knows the river. You ask about Jun Seo's ability to leave with her during the process. Han pauses. She says that his post at the Research Institute is classified as a senior domestic appointment. Exit authorization for holders of such appointments takes separate clearance. Separate timeline. Sora's exit authorization cannot be initiated, as stated, until the primary process concludes. She says this the way someone reads a train schedule. You sit with it for a moment because your brain needs to confirm what your ears have reported. You ask what you are supposed to do. Han says, the most advisable path is compliance with the external residency requirement. This keeps the review process active and moving. Resistance or noncompliance would freeze the process and change its character from administrative to disciplinary. She says this without judgment. She has said this sentence before. It is a wall. She knows it. She's not apologizing for the wall. She is telling you where it is. You leave her office and walk along the Taidong for an hour. The river is the same. The city moves around you the same way it has moved around you for 4 years. It's 14 tram lines and its wide avenues, and it's people going somewhere with the particular purposefulness of people who have things to do and are doing them. None of them are required to notice your story. That is the thing about the city and maybe every city. There is always room for one more quiet thing that doesn't get resolved by the river moving. You spend 2 weeks arranging what can be arranged. Jun Seo is very practical about it. This is how he handles things that he cannot fix. He fixes the things around them. He organizes your documents into a folder with tabbed sections. He writes down Sora's medical history on a card and keeps a copy for you. Though you are not taking her, Soya do not understand at first why you need it. He says, so you know. So you have it in case you need to tell someone somewhere. That sentence is the clearest thing anyone has ever said to you about love. The morning you leave, Sora wakes up early. She does not know the full shape of what is happening she is for, but she knows something is happening because you have too many bags and Jun Seo has the face he has when he is holding something still. She follows you from room to room and hands you things.
A sock.
A small plastic bear. A picture she drew yesterday that is of the 3 of you labeled Iyama, Appa, Sora, with a sun above that has lines going in every direction, and when you ask her why the sun has so many lines, she says because it is very sunny, and you say how sunny, and she says the most sunny, and you both laugh, and it's the laugh, her laugh, surprised like happiness just showed up, and you have to deal with it. You put her picture in your coat pocket. You have never been able to take it out. Jun Seo drives you to the airport. You sit in the back with Sora in your lap, and she falls asleep 20 minutes before you get there, her whole body heavy against your chest, her hand flat on your collarbone the way she rests it when she's completely trusting. You don't move. The airport appears through the window. Jun Seo parks and comes around to your door and opens it without saying anything, and you sit there for another minute because Sora is sleeping, and the minute you move her, this begins, and you are not ready for this to begin. He says your name.
Once.
Quietly. You get out. You hand Sora to him, and she stirs and opens her eyes and looks at you, and you say in Korean, Iyama is going on a trip. She considers this. She says, come back. You say, I will. You say it with your whole body, not just the word, because she is 4, and she reads people the way she reads the river, with everything she's got. You walk into the terminal. You don't look back because if you look back you will not go through the door, and you have to go through the door because going through the door is the thing that keeps the process moving, and keeps the process moving is how you get back to her. You go through the door. The external residency period is initially assessed at 6 to 9 months. You are based in Beijing, in a small apartment that a colleague helps you find, with a window that faces west and catches nothing, and a kitchen that has the energy of a room where nothing meaningful has ever been cooked. You work. You file. You submit documents through Han. You video call on the designated connection days through a channel Junesio's workplace permits for family contacts, Tuesdays and Saturdays, 20 minutes each. You plan what you will say. You watch Sora on a screen. She shows you things. A drawing. A tooth that came loose. A dance she has learned for a school presentation. She holds things up to the camera as if showing you is the same as you being there. You hold the screen. 6 months becomes 8. A required supplementary filing creates a pause. 8 months becomes 11. An administrative reclassification of your employment category requires redocumentation. Each extension is explained. Each explanation is accurate and also is a door you can see through but cannot open from this side. Junesio calls on a Thursday evening, outside the scheduled windows. His voice sounds like something that has been carrying weight for a long time and has not put it down. He says the review has entered a new phase. He says he has spoken to Han. He says, I think you need to come to Beijing, and we need to talk to Han together by phone. He says he loves you. He says it the way he says things. He means flat and whole, no decoration. He says a lot of things, and all of them are true, and none of them change the thing that you already feel in the space between his words. You meet on a video call with Han from your Beijing apartment, Junesio in Pyongyang, Han in her office. She explains that the reprocessing timeline now extends beyond the original estimate, that the reclassification has created a need for reapproval at a higher administrative level, that the higher level has a longer timeline. She is precise. She isn't unkind. She says the situation has not closed. It is still moving. But the timeline is no, realistically, 2 to 3 additional years. Sora will be 6.
7. She will lose more teeth.
She will start school fully. She will become someone more than she already is, and you will witness it in 20-minute Tuesday and Saturday windows while she holds things up to a camera and believes that showing you is the same as you being there. You ask Han about options. She says what she can say. She says it carefully. None of the options close the distance faster. They manage it differently. You ask about Sora coming to Beijing. Han says that requires a separate authorization, that the authorization requires Junesio's co-signature and his institutional clearance, that the clearance timeline is its own process. She does not say how long.
She does not need to.
You sit in the Beijing apartment after the call ends, and outside the window the city is going about its evening, and nothing out there is required to know that in an apartment in the 4th floor a woman is trying to understand how the most ordinary thing she ever did, staying, choosing, loving someone until it became a life, became the thing that now requires this much surviving. Junesio calls back 20 minutes later without a plan. He calls because the alternative is not calling, and he doesn't do things by not doing them. You talk for an hour. You talk about Sora. He puts the phone near her bed, so you can hear her sleeping. He does this without explanation. You just listen to her breathe for a minute, and then he picks the phone back up, and you keep talking. He says, "This is not the end of it." You say, "I know." You both mean it. You are also both sitting in the truth of what 2 more years of Tuesdays and Saturdays and 20-minute windows means. There is no villain in this. The system was not designed for you. It was not designed against you either. It was designed for a different world, and it caught you inside it the same way systems catch everyone who never imagined needing protection from the things they built in good faith. You find a way to go back for a scheduled visit 4 months later. You are authorized a 2-week supervised stay as a foreign national with pending resident status. You land at Sunan. Junesio is not allowed in the arrivals hall, but he is standing outside it, and when the doors open you can see him through the glass, standing very still with his hands at the sides and Sora beside him with her hand in his, and she sees you before he does, and the sound she makes running is not a word, it's just her whole body, and she hits you at full speed and you hold her, and she is bigger than she was and still exactly the same, and you breathe her in, and you do not let go until she squirms. Junesio puts his hand on the side of your face. He doesn't say anything. You don't say anything. Some things have already been said. Some things don't need words. Some things are just 2 people standing in an airport with a child between them who drew a sun with too many lines because it is the most sunny, and you are back, briefly, inside the life that is yours, that is still there, that you are going to fight your way back to with every document and every process and every Tuesday and every Saturday until the process moves and the door opens and you come home and stay. The 2 weeks go too fast. Every day goes too fast. Every morning with Sora's weight against you at the breakfast table goes too fast. Every evening with Junesio reading past page 9 too fast. The last night, Sora won't go to sleep on time. She keeps coming out of her room with reasons. She's thirsty. She heard something. She wants to ask you something she then forgets when she gets to the door. You understand. You understand exactly. You let her stay up an extra hour. She falls asleep between you and Junesio on the couch, her feet in his lap, her head on your arm, the book open on her chest to page 9. You read pages 10 through 22 in a whisper because stopping in the middle still feels wrong. In the morning you say goodbye again. She says, "Come back." You say, "I will." You go through the door. In the Beijing apartment, on nights when the process feels like a weight with no shape, you take the picture out of your coat pocket. The one Sora drew the morning you left. The three of you. A house. A sun. Lines going out in every direction. Because it is the most sunny. Your mother calls on Sundays. She asks how you're holding up. You say fine, and then you say actually, and then you talk for an hour. She stopped asking when you're coming home. She understood somewhere along the way that home is a word that means something different now. Home is Ryomiang. Home is the rug Junesio said was too bright. Home is the bookshelf with too many books. Home is page 9, and what comes after. Home is a 4-year-old who runs at full speed through airport doors because she decided a long time ago that you are someone she belongs to and has not reconsidered. Your brother texts on Tuesdays after the call window every time just, "How is it?" 3 words. Every week. You answer every time. Sometimes it's fine. Sometimes it's apagraph. He responds to both the same way, with okay, just okay. And it means, I'm here. I heard you. Go do the next thing. The process is still moving. Han files. You file. Junesio's institution provides documentation clearances on a timeline that is slow and is moving. There is a revision to the spousal residency authorization category that Han says is more favorable. She says this in the way she says everything. Precise, present, accurate, not promising more than the information holds. You are learning that patience is not a feeling. It is a practice.
It is Tuesday.
It is Saturday. It is the picture in the pocket. It is Junesio's voice saying, "This is not the end of it." It is Sora holding something up to the camera, a drawing, a lost tooth, a dance, I made this look, and you looking, holding the screen, and the looking being the same as being there. You are learning that being there is not always physical. That presence has shapes you were not taught. On a Tuesday call in March, Sora shows you a new drawing. She drew it at school. She says it is a picture of your family. There is a house. There are 3 people. There is a sun. She holds it up to the camera. You say, "Why does the sun have so many lines?" She looks at you like the answer is obvious. She says, "Because it is very sunny." You say, "How sunny?" She says, "The most sunny." You both laugh. Somewhere in Pyongyang, Junesio is smiling at his phone. The sun keeps going. You are still in it. And somewhere a story is sitting at page 9, waiting for the reader to come back and finish it. Because the reader is coming back. Because stories shouldn't stop in the middle, even when everything else does.